Hello, everybody. I got here just in the nick of time. I thought today was going to be a 9 p.m. and I thought I had another 6 hours for this live stream. And then my alarm went off only 30 minutes before going live, going, oh, crap, I ain't got nothing ready yet. I need to move that alarm forward, or maybe even doing an advanced alarm so it's the day before, so I make sure I've got the right time in my mind, because there's just a lot going on up here and a little bit of room. In fact, I think I told some of the viewers in messaging and emails and comments, be sure to be here tonight at 9 to see what this is going to be about, because this was a viewer-inspired design. They wanted to learn how to do this. And I told them, yeah, be sure I'm going to go over it step by step. And I think I told them to be here at 9 tonight. Boy, I dropped the ball on that. But, hey, this is going to be it's not going to be a very long video, and not like 5 hours. But it's going to be a very detailed video. And it may be one that will require you to watch it on the rewatch so you can pause it, back up, and catch it. Because what I plan to do is, because how many ways are there to do something in the LightBurn? Always more than one way. And I found the way I'm going to do it, the best way for me to wrap my mind around this design. There are other ways to do it, and I'll show you a couple different options when creating layers and designs. And sometimes the offset tool can be your best friend, but depending on how you're wanting to lay it out, sometimes it's easier just to draw it out, and that's what I'm going to do here. But it's really easy because I'm not going to design the entire thing. I'm going to use shortcuts to do the design work, show you all that in LightBurn. And in fact, what I plan to do once I start laying out the different layers, I plan to do 1 or 2 layers without taking a lot of time and explanation to show you what I'm doing, just to show you how quick it can be done. But then I will stop and go back. Okay, now this is why I did what I did. This is how I did what I did. Because there are a lot of steps in this, but it's repetitive. And if you can keep the squirrels out of your head and out of the house and out of your workspace, it's a very repetitive process. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, next, 1, 2, 3, 4, next. And as long as no one gets in your way and you can keep going, and it's a pattern so easy to do. But as soon as, where were you? Oh, crap. And then you get messed up and you forget to do that. And so that's the only thing about repetitive processes is depending on your mind. And if it's anything like mine, sometimes you need absolute concentration and no distractions. And I had a few of those this week. So I'm glad that you guys are here. We got 37 of you here. This is all Saturdays at 3 p.m. for me, early afternoon. It's always a limited crowd and a small crowd, but I'm thankful for those that are here. And I'm just going to look, and I'm really surprised to see the amount of locals in here. We got Richard from Goose Creek, and I saw another one from just up the road in Dallas. Also, quite a few. And then we've got, of course, our regulars. In fact, I seen a comment from not Chris, Terry. I think it was Terry. They're Australia and New Zealand. I think Terry said something about spring is sprung, so it's getting a little warm for them. I don't know. And, New Zealand, for those who don't know your globe, they are in the southern hemisphere. And usually when they get spring, we get late fall or winter. Well, we got spring near summertime temps going on too. We're going to be in the mid to high 80s this week. So, it's some funky weather going on. In fact, just this week we had, and if 7th grade science serves me correctly, the difference between a hurricane and a cyclone is the direction of rotation. And usually that's different hemispheres. Usually you have hurricanes in the northern hemisphere, cyclones in the southern hemisphere. But I'm pretty sure we just had a tropical cyclone go through. They didn't call. I don't think they call it a hurricane, but lots of flooding in the coastal areas. Just lots of heavy rain here. Louisiana just got inundated too, so we've had some funky weather going on. Let's see here. Just checking and see everybody's doing well. Yep. And Kevin, thank you. We did hit the 10,000 mark since the last live stream. Woo, woo. Another milestone. It was exciting to see, but it was nowhere near as exciting as that first 1,000, because that first 1,000 subscribers with the watch hours is when you started to make pennies on YouTube. So this doesn't come with any kind of extra bump or bonus. It's just another milestone, another hurdle. So thank you for that. And thank you all for being subscribers. Let's see, looking for any more questions or comments before we jump in here. There's a question mark. Are you using Baltic birch or hardwoods? It depends on how expensive you want your project to be. If you're speaking specifically of this cross, this one right here is all done in the premium Baltic birch, the 3mm material, give or take. I got to clean my glasses. I can't see. Now I definitely can't see. But like I said, this design was a viewer inspired request. And turn that off. And I'll show you the style of cross that they seen that they wanted to purchase. And turns out this person is local to me. They're here in North Carolina making these. And they're making them and selling them for $100 to upwards. I think I've seen some for $130 odd. My glasses are coming apart too. Oh, joy. And I've got my spare in the camper. Hopefully I can keep these together. Oh man, you can see. But this is all Baltic birch. I didn't put any finish on it except for the triple thick glaze, because I like the natural wood look. And the premium Baltic birch plywood has got some really, once you put that finish on there, it's got some nice features to it. So you get some wood grain to it. And I like just the plain, unstained, unfinished Baltic birch on this. The different layers and with the symmetry that I've used, it gives it a lot of the 3D effect is really prevalent. And and this is my opinion, as in most of my videos, a lot of times what I can offer you is my opinion. In my opinion, a lot of varying colors or stains and or wood grains or different wood types could potentially take away from this. I like that. And I'm going to show you something that's kind of cool on this. I did something different on this one that I've never done on another project before. And I think it's really super cool. So it's 8 layers thick, right? So it's nearly an inch thick. Because this is supposed to be 3mm wood, 8 times 3 is supposed to be around 24, and 25.4 millimeters is an inch. So it's nearly an inch thick. And you notice the back side is clean there, no wall hangers, but I've got a wall hanger built into it. The last 3 layers comprise the wall hanger. The third and second from the back have just got a large rectangular slot cut out in it. And in the back one, I put a sawtooth on this one, sawtooth or gator or whatever. But you could get by if you take your time and make sure you have it perfectly centered. You could put a teardrop right there in the very center, and that way you can hang it. But being as wide as it is, it does. Now, it's not sturdy. And if there's any, like this house, with the floor being the trampoline that it is, if I had lots of people in the house and a lot of movement in the house. Wrong way, Conway. There we go. Um, it wouldn't stand there like that. But you could easily adapt a stand and put a stand on this. But as big as it is, and this is actually, I designed it so it's about a foot tall and not quite, I think maybe 10 inches wide or so. But as all of my designs, they are scalable, and I fully intend to make one of these that's going to be closer to the I don't know, 18-inch maybe width. I'm going to make it bigger, make a larger one, not so large that it's obtuse or just unattractive, but just a larger wall hanging. Let's see here. In fact, Robert is the one that sent me this. I haven't seen him in the stream yet, and I think I was a dummy and told him 9 o'clock tonight. But here is his image he sent me saying, hey, this was a layered cross. I think it was an 8-layered piece. And he's, hey, can you help me with a design like this? And I said, well, I can do one. I said, I don't really, and this one doesn't really appeal to me. And again, it's just opinion, this is the OCD in me. I like symmetry when I can get it. And this one, while it has symmetry, it's asymmetrical symmetry, if that's a thing. If you look at mine, it starts out here in the center and then steps down left and right side all the way down on equal parts. And you've got the same thing repeated up top. Well, the version he sent me, it looks like this right here. Switch. It is this area right here, straight down all the way to the bottom. It doesn't step off on either side of that axis. This ray or this burst, if you will, this top one is, I think they say it was, well, actually, this is not. I think they advertise it as having one hardwood, and I think the very top layer is like this one, maybe maple. And the rest of this all through here looks like it's all the same plywood, but then they stain it all the different colors. But here it steps straight down, and then it steps down, one step 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 down. So it steps off only in one direction, not in both. Same thing here. This is straight down and a small step down in that way. Over here, it steps down in both directions, but on the sides, up top, straight down, and then step, 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 step. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just another way of doing it. And that's what appeals to them and the way they felt like designing it. Or I'm assuming that they designed this themselves and didn't have it done by artificial intelligence, or they bought it, or who knows? I don't know. Because they're selling finished pieces. They're not selling the design. So they may very well have bought the design and they were just selling finished pieces. But they advertise it as maple or walnut. And I think it's only the top piece is actual hardwood. Maybe even top and maybe the back. I hadn't seen the back. And then the rest of it's all done in stained plywoods to get their different colors. But I like that. And then given that I like the symmetry, if I was going to do colors, I would do my colors in variants that started out bright and gradually got darker as it went down. So even my colors would be symmetrical. But that's just my brain. There's nothing wrong with the way theirs looks. That looks fine. It's not an unattractive piece. Seeing those variants dark up here, and then they do have lighter or darker, or it's lighter than top, but then it gets lighter, lighter, lighter as it goes down, and then dark again. That's just their way. There's nothing wrong with when you're doing design work and artistic. It's what appeals to you and what appeals to your buyer, what's selling. All right, so let's see here. More comments, questions before we jump in here. And Chris, no, I like the colors, but not keen on the design. Yeah, and that's why I said it. And see, sometimes 100% symmetry and even with the design and with the colors and all that, then that can look not as organic, if you will. And it's some people don't that doesn't appeal to people. They like it where it is some mixed, mashed up stuff. Picasso. I would never care to have a Picasso. Never appealed. That type of artwork was never impressionist and that kind of never appealed to me. I like realistic stuff. I want to see, true representations of the female body, not a female with 4 ears, 2 eyes, and 3 noses. Yeah, but if you have 4 Picassos hanging on your wall, bless you. All right. All right. So we're going to jump in here to LightBurn. I'm going to acknowledge this. Not Stanley says, "Healthy beard, you rocking." This is laziness. In fact, I had to slick my hair back and jump on here because I was not prepared for 3. I was thinking 9, and so I just slicked it back and put some gel in here. And it's Halloween's knocking on the corner, on the door, right around the corner. And I used to embrace Halloween with a passion. I worked for Paramount for 7 years, was one of their feature screechers, and loved doing realistic Hollywood special effects, makeup and stuff. But I've outgrown that slightly. And but I thought about doing some stuff, but I'm rethinking it. I need to be an adult now. I need to be an adult. Oh, look at there. We got a new member. Thank you, Stacy. Appreciate you. All right. Let's see here. Well, Steve, the missus said I can have the 30-watt. Nice. Well, be sure. Let's see here. Comments, banners. Let's put this banner up here. If you are going to jump in to the deep end and get one of the Rolly Lasermatics, be it the XW or just the Lasermatic MK2, I'd appreciate it if you use that link rolling there. HoboWithWood.com/Rolly. That just lets Leo know that, yeah, maybe I influenced your buying purchase or decision a little bit, or at least you're a regular viewer. And, I had some input in it. Let's see here. Comments. I'm about over the hives, and shingles are gone. Hives still give me a fit. I seem, and then we're going to discuss this just briefly. We're going to jump into LightBurn. I seem to have all of my emotional stress when the average person does not or should not have it. When I had my heart attacks, it was in the middle of the night. When I was having my strokes, I was asleep. I woke up talking like I was drunk. I was a cross between a drunk and Sylvester Stallone. And I was fine when I went to bed. Well, in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and I'm just itching and my hands are swollen and I can't even hardly flex them. And I'm fine. But now with the shingles being over and the hives are receding and or gone mostly, except for that middle of the night stuff. Now I'm suffering with TMJ. Go figure. Again, it's all stress. It's all neurological. It's all in my head. I'm bringing it all on myself. But now I went into my favorite breakfast spot the other day, sat down to eat, and I couldn't open my mouth to eat. My mouth was completely locked up. And I recognized what it was. It was lockjaw. I couldn't couldn't open it. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what causes lockjaw? Usually it's an infection of the blood, tetanitis, or it is a symptom of TMJ. And that's what mine is. And I even catch myself in the middle of the day sitting on the TV, in front of the TV, doing nothing and just clenching my jaw. You know, no reason. I'm just there clenching. But I had lockjaw for the first time in the middle of the day the other day. I was like, golly. But it's all in here. It's all in here. All right. So let's jump in here to LightBurn, and we're going to look at this. And in fact, before I jump over there, look at this cross again. This cross might be a little bit longer than the way I've designed it. And I tried to emulate this a little bit with my design on the cross. Normally, I'll do a cross that is, I'll have a basic, you'll see in a minute, I'll have a basic square this size, maybe 50 millimeters. And it'll be 3 squares wide and 4 squares tall. So it's usually a 3x4 cross that I do. But in this case, I did a 4x5 cross to emulate that a little more and give it more length. But it looks like theirs is even longer. And again, that didn't appeal to me. This is what appealed to me. And I'm going to show you how I designed the cross, everything. We're going to jump in here and start it all. Before I do, I just seen 2 question marks jump up. Leo said they would be back in the UK next week. I'm very excited to let you know when it's here. Excellent. You're going to love it. You are. And I teased you about that Jinmitsu. I played with the Jinmitsu this week and even have a video ready, but they are dragging their feet on getting me my referral link. And until they do, I'm not going to bother putting the video up. All right. Yeah. Well, Stanley, not Stanley. If you aren't a regular viewer of Hobo with Wood, you know squirrels are everywhere. And I've learned the hard way that nobody shows up when these videos start. They're always 15, 20 minutes late. So I drag my feet a little bit, but let's jump in here now. Let's take this off, go make here to LightBurn. So we're starting out with a blank screen. And like I said, and I'll put some marks in my comments so I know where I'm at. All right, now, this one I went with a 4x5 dimension. So if I come in here, and another thing too, this may be, there's always more than one way to do things in LightBurn. I've said that already in this stream, and I say it tons of times in every video. When I start my design work, I start with the thought process, well, what is my work piece? Not my work area, but what's my work piece? If I've got some large pieces of hardwood, then I can fully utilize my XW. But if I've only got a 300 by 300 material, then that's what I need to set my design up on. Because what you have to be careful of when you're doing design work, if you design something that looks really, really nice and you design it up here at an 18 by 18, well, when you shrink it down, now you can get some pieces that are so small and so fragile that they're not going to work. So when you're designing, you should design the piece at its smallest intended use and know that you can always blow it up and make it larger, but design small so you can take it larger. Because if you make it up here and make it smaller, then that could be an issue that bites you in the butt. But I wanted these to be as large as I could get out of a 300 by 300 piece. So I will use my toolpath and draw out a square about 300 millimeters, not about, we're going to make it 300 millimeters. And I'll put it in the center of the page right now. All right. With that done, I'm like, okay, if that's 300 millimeters, and I know I want my cross to be a ratio of 4 wide and 5 tall, then if this is going to be 5 and I need to leave a little bit of buffer, then I can come in here and just draw out a square. any little square. And it's a perfect square. And I come up here, my padlock is locked. I'm going to click on the millimeters here so it highlights the size. And if I want to leave about a 5 millimeter buffer around the top and bottom when I'm cutting this out, that leaves me 290 millimeters. So 290 millimeters, and I need 5 squares. Then right there, 58 millimeters is the largest that it can be and fit on that 300 by 300 if I want to make it as big as I can out of a 300 piece. If you're wanting to make these smaller, or you want to get more of these, because then, in fact, let me grab my scrap. By cutting these out as big as I can out of a 300 by 300, you've got some scrap here that can still be used for different designs and earrings and so forth, but the bulk of this material is gone. And so when you're figuring your price up, you're going to figure an entire sheet for each layer. You could reduce this from the beginning so that when you're doing this design work, you could reduce it so you could get two crosses out of a 300 by 300 piece of material and minimize your waste, get 2 out of the cost of the same amount of material, but design it that small from the beginning. But for this demonstration, we're going to design it as big as we can for 300 by 300. So I said I wanted it to be 5 tall. So what I'm going to do is do an array. And we're going to do rows 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to do padding between edges. And we're going to do 0. And that puts it right there. And say, okay. Now, those are grouped. Actually, I'm going to ungroup them. And I'm going to, let's see here. I'm going to group 4 of them. And I'm going to Control D, duplicate that. And then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. And that put it in the exact position that I need it to be. Now I'm going to group, or actually I'm going to, I don't even need to worry about grouping any of it. I'm not going to worry about my toolpath right now, just selecting all of those rectangles only. And now do a 0 offset. Doesn't matter if it's inward or outward, and delete the original and say, okay. And now I can center that up in, where's my center? There it is. And there you go. There's a 4 by 5 aspect or ratio. It's 4 wide and 5 tall, and it's got a 5 millimeter gap top and bottom of the material. And so that is my outermost design of that cross. Easy peasy, right? Now, that's as big as it's going to be. And I want to do, I got to think this out as I'm going. I've got my outermost layer is just a thin representation, a little bitty thin piece that's close to the same thickness of each of the rays that you see radiating out. And then you see the next layer has got the same thickness on that's shown there. So now I need to create my top layer, and let's give that a 4 millimeter offset. So put that on a cut layer, and I'm going to do an offset. Make sure you're in corners, turn off the delete, and we're going to do an inward offset of 4 millimeters and say, okay. Now I'm going to select just this outer one. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say, and Control D, duplicate that one, and then hold my shift button and select that inner one, group those together and drag it out of the way. And there's my top layer. Now for this one, this is going to be the second layer. I'm going to do an offset inward, and I'm going to do this one at 8 millimeters. because that's twice the thickness of the first offset, and say okay. And that's the outer perimeter of the top layer. Now I need to get my cross in the center of this, the little cross, which is just a shrunk down version of the big cross. But positioning is everything. And how do you get that centered up? Because that is not in the center of the cross. The center of the cross is down here somewhere. So I'm going to show you how I get that all centered up. And these first couple of steps right here, I'm explaining each step by step. But when it comes time to start doing the array, I'm going to blow through one or two real fast, and then I'll come back, and I may not even talk to you while I'm doing it. Let's see here. So now I need to get. It doesn't really matter which one of these I grab. But I'm just going to grab this one. Say Control D, duplicate it, and I will hold my control and just shrink her down until I get her about what I'm looking for. Is and this is personal preference. It's what appeals to you. And I'm looking to get the crossbar, that cross, to be about the width of the opening there. So I can bring this out a little bit about to there. And that's about where I want her. Now what I got to do to get her centered up here, I'll move it up a little bit. I'm going to draw two squares. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab my blue toolpath, my square tool, and I'm going to come right here to this corner, hold my shift button and get that square, then come in here and draw another one to there. And now use my selector tool to hold that, and then hold shift, select that and put it in the center. And now that that's centered within that square, I'll come in here and grab that corner of that cross and put her right there. And that's centered up in Bob's uncle. So that's the position for that. Now that needs an offset as well. Now let's take a look and see how that's going to look with I do, let's do, what's 4? That's 4 is too small. 3, not 43, stupid. 3, yeah, I'm going to do 3 millimeters on that. So that one's going to be a little bit less than the other pieces, but that looks better for me. So now that I've got those in the right position, if you don't have a nice mouse like this, where you've got the trackball and you're either using a trackpad or you've got just a cheaper mouse, if you have a problem like I used to have, whenever I would be trying to select something, I accidentally move it or bump it, and you can, and we don't want these to move. These need to be fixed in place and never deviate again. You can lock these to your tool bed. So in fact, what I'm going to do is there should be only one of each. So since I can see those, in fact, if you're not aware of this, I'll show you this too. Since you can see the ants, or you see the Vegas lights crawling across there, you know that there's only one copy of each of those. And we look there, you can see those. So there's only one copy of each. If there was a duplicate, if I say Control D and duplicate that, that's what happens. You can still see them crawling around back there, kind of, sort of right there, but it becomes more of a solid line. Then that's why you know there's duplications there. But here there are no duplicates. And I'm going to group each pair together. That's grouped. And I'm going to group this one and this one. And now I will go ahead and group both pairs. And I'm going to first duplicate the individual pairs, say Control D. And now that that duplicate is on top, I'm going to select we'll put them on the red toolpath, and then come up here to arrange, and let's see, and lock selected shapes. Now I'm going to turn off the other toolpaths. So there's my red toolpaths, the ones I just created, and I locked them in place. And if you see up here, you've got these little plus signs. That's indicating that these are locked. So if I grab that right now, I've got that middle square. Oh, sorry, I didn't turn off the red layer, dummy. Turn off that. There we go. In fact, actually, let's put it back. I need to reposition it. In these videos, you get the screw ups and all. So put that back, undo, and now turn that off. Just turn it off. There we go. So there you go. There's just a toolpath. And if I select that, you get your plus marks I was talking about. And now, but you see, there are no handles to grab that. You cannot select it and move it. It's locked in place. That is fixed to your bed. And we're going to need this pattern repeatedly in the future here. So having this locked into place like that, it's not a bad idea if you don't have a great mouse, or your fingers sometimes just fat finger too often and you grab something you didn't want to, or select something you didn't want to. All right, so now let's turn these others back on, turn on my tool paths, and now there's my cut path. So now I do have a duplicate on there on the red layer, and I can go ahead and turn off that tool path. It's there and it's locked in place, but when I select anything now, I'm not selecting that locked tool path. I'm only selecting that red layer. So now I need to create my arrays going out, my burst. Now you can do, in fact, I'll show you real quick on just a circle or a square. You can do arrays like this using an array tool. But I found with this cross and this particular design, I didn't care for the way the array worked and with the extra steps that were required to modify the arrays, because when you do an array, it does an array in all four directions of your shape. And when we're doing this starburst, we don't want it to go toward the center of the cross. We want the center of that to be in the center. We don't want that array to push it out, or the offset. We don't want the offset to push it away. We want that center to stay in the center. And same goes for the end. It does not need to be pushed out. It doesn't matter that it gets pushed out past the cross. You can cut that off. That's just another step that now you got to edit that, cut that off. And so I did not use the array tool to create these starbursts. But if you're not doing this cross, but you want to do layers, check out how easy it is to do layers on a piece. If you have, we'll even do something more than a circle. We'll do this, and I got it on the wrong layer. Let's put it on the blue layer. There we go. And now I'm going to put it in line mode. So I've got this single piece, and it's in line mode. Well, I could do a single offset. Because how many ways are there to do something in LightBurn? One way. No, you can do this 100 different ways. This is just one way. Let's take this one single line item, go to offset tool, and tell it we want to do both inward and outward. And if you want it to be 3 millimeters wide, and the reason you might want to do inner and outward is if you position that piece exactly where you want it, and that's exactly where the center of it needs to be. If you do an outward offset, now it's not where you want it to be anymore, because it's 3 millimeters out and you wanted that inside line to be. So do an inward and outward from a fixed position that you want it to be in. And if you want it to be 3 millimeters wide, then you do it half the distance of 1.5 millimeters and delete the original and say, and say okay, and group that. Now that is a 3 millimeter offset of that. Now, if you wanted to have, several layers of that, now you select that and you tell it you want to do an offset, and now you only want to do an outward offset. Let's see, and you turn off the outer shapes only, and now you want it. It's only giving us a 1.5 millimeter. Now you need to increase your offset distance back to 3 millimeters. And now that would be a different layer of 3 millimeters, and say, okay. I had to delete option on there. Didn't want to do that. Offset, turn off the delete original and say, okay. And put that on a different layer. and put that blue layer in a fill mode too. And I'm on stupid. I had them both selected. Move that. Wrong one. There we go. Now select the blue layer and put it in fill mode. So now you can start to see there's your top layer, there's your second layer. And if you grab that one again and go right back to your offset tool and do an outward of 3 millimeters and say, okay, select the resulting objects and put it on another layer. Put it, and then you, right now you see you can't see the other layers. That's because your priority right here. If you move that, change your priority, move it all the way to top. Now you can see all your layers. So there's 1, 2, 3 layers of that rectangle with equal distance between each of them, inward and outward, all the way down to create that stair-stepped effect. So that's just one way to do layers. If you're not wanting to do the cross and you're not doing this starburst, you can do layers like that. And then if you're wanting to take it, and once you create one piece like that, say, okay, group all of that, select it all, group all that together. And I'm going to take it off my work bed, come over here. And I'm going to say, let's draw a circle right over here. Put that on the toolpath. Select both of those and do a circular array. Start and end at 360 and 0, not 350, end at 360. And I want to do 8 copies, 9 copies. Oh, I did the wrong thing. Stupid. I got my priorities wrong. Select that and then select the circle. Circular array, 0 to 360. And we'll just start decrease. Now, these are all multiple layers, and we're going to start looking at a kaleidoscope effect. We're deviating from our cross, but the cross doesn't appeal to everybody, and people watching this may want to just learn technique and not this particular cross. And let's turn off the rotate. There we go. And come on down. There, that's looking kind of neat. Say okay. But you could end up with a multi-layer design and keep playing with different designs and shapes, and then do arrays of those with the different offsets and come up with a really unique looking kaleidoscope effect of a multi-layered kaleidoscope look. But now let's jump back over to the cross. So get rid of that. And I'm not going to use that technique in the cross at all. Now what I want to do is I want to have my starburst. I want it to radiate out from the center of the cross. And because I took the time to put this little cross, this horizontal bar in the cross is centered within this horizontal bar of the cross and centered vertically, then the exact center of that is the center of both of the crosses. And that's where I want those lines to radiate out from. Just my take on this design. So what I need to do is come up here and get my ellipse tool. And I'm going to come right down here with my cursor. And you see I've got my arrow. And as soon as I get right there, I get my arrow turns into crosshairs. I'll hold Control and Shift. And that will start drawing my circle out from that point. And that will be in the exact center of that cross. If you hold just your shift, it's going to draw out a perfect circle, but it doesn't draw out from the center. So you hold your Control Shift and get that circle right there in the perfect. Another way, if you forget to do that, or you're like, how did he do that? And you don't remember the video. How many ways are there to do something in LightBurn? Another thing you can do is, and I didn't mean do that. You can always screw up. If you've got a lesser mouse and you end up moving that, unless you selected it and now it got bumped, and you're like, well, you can use that square again. Come up here and draw out a square from corner to corner, and then select your circle, select your square, and tell it bullseye. Now you're back in the center again. And if you did it the original way the first time and you're like, I don't know if that's centered or not, that's how you can check it. That's centered up. Now, when I'm going to start creating my starburst, my radiating lines, arrays, if you will. And I'm going to start that with drawing a simple straight line from the center of this circle to the bottom of the cross. Now, I go to the bottom because that's the furthest distance. And it's not just there straight down to the bottom of the cross, because from the center of that circle to the corner is even longer. So just for giggles, I take it a little bit beyond that. And if you I just happened to see that question pop up, and I think I just answered the same thing. Couldn't you draw a line from the two corners? Oh, no. Yeah. Instead of doing the square, what he's talking about, and like I say, not Stanley, there's always more than one way. And my videos get ridiculously long sometimes. And if I tried to show all the different ways, we'd never get anything done. There's not a right way or a wrong way. It's what you know, what works for you, how your mind registers things. But if for folks that aren't aware of what he's talking about, if you come up here and used your line tool, the problem with using the line, though, is if you draw a line from there to there and it pops in, draw a line from that corner to that corner, where they intersect, there's your center point. And I guess actually what you could do is, if I didn't mean to draw that, and again, we're getting off on a tangent, but if that was moved over here somehow and you needed to go right there, if you selected both those lines and grouped them, and then select your circle and then select your group and tell it to go to center, it's going to put it right in the center again. So that's just another way. There's always another way. Stacy said something about locking that in. You could lock this in as well to keep that from being accidentally moved. All right, so let's get back to drawing lines and starting this array. So let's get rid of this. All right, now I'm going, and if you're not sure about where to start your line, that mouse is an arrow. As I go right in that circle, it's going to change to crosshairs when it gets in the center of the circle. So first thing I'm going to do is make sure I'm on my tool path, come up here to my pencil tool, come right here and get my crosshairs to where I'm in the center of that circle. And I'm going to left click, holding my shift button, and scroll out and come down here well beyond the length of that cross and left click again, and it stopped, and right click to stop it. Now I'm going to come up here and grab that tool path, scroll in, hold my shift button, grab that circle, come over to my circular array. And now I'm going to start doing a circular array. Now, I'm not going to do a full encompassing array. Oh, in fact, I've got, right here. You got to make sure you turn this rotate objects back on. So they're sure they're going out. I'm not going to do a full array right here. You can, in fact, I will, but for people who don't see things the way I see things and you need to see the big picture, I'll do that first, and then I will cut it down and show you why and how and what. But if you do a circular array from zero, start at 0, end at 360, it's going to make those go all the way around that circle, and you increase your copies and you start to see what will be the sides of those starburst. And depending on how many layers you want it to be, the more of these you're going to need. And I'm going to keep going and keep going. And I think, no, I know I used 152 copies. And you can just come over here and just type in 152, and that gives you that. But I wanted you to see how that was increasing, because what you're going to look, how I got to 152, I did not use any kind of mathematical equation to figure out how many layers and all this to get, a 2 or 3 millimeter step on each layer gives me how many layers to get. I didn't do that. I did it all visually. And you could, I'm sure there's a mathematical way to do it, but I'm too lazy for that. So what I'm looking for, in fact, I'm going to take this down to 140. And what I'm looking for is I'm wanting these arrays to kind of come to this corner and this corner. And same thing up here. I want them to all kind of end in the corners. And they're not there yet. So I'm going to increase. And that's close. But being that it's an odd number, I didn't know if odd number was going to give me the result I'm looking for. So I stayed with even numbers, and I got to 152. I said, okay, well, that's not in the corner there, but this was spot on down at the bottom. And I said, okay, I believe I can make that work. So I went with 152 rays here, and this is where when I put a design out there for sale, it's after I've tested it and made it and have a complete working version. And this wasn't my first one. This was my second one. And the first one, I didn't care for it so much. I didn't like the way the steps worked, and I didn't get the spacing exactly right. In fact, I've got this 8-layer version, and I've got another 8-layer version that is more symmetrical than even this one. And that's what we're going to design here. We're going to design it where it's truly symmetrical all the way down from the top of the ray to the bottom. And if you remember when I showed you how to do your first offset to get the distance that you needed, you do that half of the total thickness desired because it's going out in both directions. And then you got to double it for each layer after that because it's either side of the top one. Well, that's kind of what you got to think about when you're doing this and the way that I'm going to do this. And you'll see. So 152 worked. And so I said, 152 divided by 2 is 76, and say, okay. So I'm going to cancel. I'm going to get out of this. Or actually, I don't even have to. I'm going to come back over here to my array tool, and I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to end at 180, and half of those copies is 76. So now that gives me the same array, but only on one side of that cross. And I'm going to say okay with the group selected and done. And now I'm going to start doing my layers using this as a pattern. So this is the red layer. I've got my toolpath cut out. So this is the inner and outer cross of what will be my second layer, because up here is my first layer. So now what I want to do is I want to create my first ray of the starburst, if you will, for lack of a better term. And I'm going to use the pencil tool. I could select this first ray right here, which is perfectly straight, and do an offset of it. But then what that's going to do is it's going to be a rectangular offset all the way down. It'll be the same width up here as it is down there. That's not what I want. That's not the look I'm after. So I'm going to use my pencil tool. Say deselect that. I'm going to grab my O2 layer, red layer, grab my pencil tool, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to get where I'm intersecting that first line, and I'm in between these two offsets of that cross. I'm in the middle of them, and I'm intersecting that line. I'm going to left click to start my line, jump over here to this one, and once I'm on that line, I will left click again, and then scroll down here to the bottom. Same thing again. I'm in the middle of them. Left click, and now I need to, oh, I just right click. I didn't mean to right click. Undo. Not that. Undo. And again. Like I say, you get to mess up, screw ups and all. pencil tool, left click. And this is why I hate talking, and I don't advise doing this with anybody in the room distracting you, because you need to be in a rhythm and in a pattern. And hold the shift key to get that to draw a straight line all the way back up. Now I'm going to show you another trick that I forgot to do, but there I get my crosshairs. That should be locked together. And if I put this in fill mode, there you can see once that's filled, it'll be a solid piece. That's done. Now that was only half of that side there. There's one. Now I need to come up here and get this corner, this side, this corner, that side. And I'm going to do this fairly quick. But here I did from the center and over one ray. Here I need to find, there it is, it goes right to that corner. I need to come in here to this one, right click, make sure I'm staying on that line all the way up, right click, and then I'm going to come down, get that one, right click, or left click. I don't know my right from my left. Left click again, and now I can't see where that's at, but if I bring my mouse over to where I think it's at, as soon as I get it to lock, it's going to go to solid. That's a closed piece. Then I'm going to go up here, and I look for that straight line, which is right here. And now I need to go one path, or from the center, I need to go out one ray and one ray. Same thing I did over here. And that'll give me a width of 2. So I come here. Oh, I didn't want it there. I clicked when I shouldn't have. And I'm normally, when you're designing, you don't design in fill mode because it's a little more difficult to see your beginning and ending pieces, or impossible. But I'm doing this in fill mode so that you know when you've got a locked design or a locked shape or a closed shape, like that. And I'm explaining what I'm doing on these, and I'm on this one. And once I do this one time with explanation, I'm going to do a couple of them without explanation and show you how fast I can go through these. And now this, I only need to do one. So I'm starting with my straight line, coming straight down, holding the shift, come over and get there, go up that ray, and come over and lock it together. Done. Don't need that. Now I've got half of those arrays done. Yes, you could do the transparency of film mode. I've not used it. It's just, this is what I work with. It's how my my stroke riddle brain works. But now that I've got this done, my toolpath is still back there of the original crosses. So in fact, I'm going to put this one on a double alt layer so that it's not confused with this. And I'm going to hold my shift button and select my layer 2 over here. And that gets me all of this. And now I'm going to drag it up here to the top, put it back in line mode so I can see everything. And then I'm going to grab the arrays. I'm going to grab that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. Group those together. Hold my shift button and select these. These are all grouped together, and now hit my weld button, and that welds all of those together. And this is a straight line from here to the bottom. So now I can come back in here and grab a rectangle tool and come up here and get my intersection point right there, draw out a rectangle. Doesn't matter what layer it's on. I'm going to use it as a cutting path and just bring that up to where it's on center. Now select my cross, so hold shift, select that, go into cut shapes or alt shift C and delete that, not cut. And I'm glad I did that. I wanted to show you this. Cut shapes leaves it as an open shape. This was an accident, but I was going to show you this in the video and why you don't want to use cut shapes And why I like doing this, just drawing out these and doing the repetition real quick, because if you use the array tool and that array is extended in all four directions beyond the center point, way beyond it, then you got to start using either the trim function or the cut shapes or whatever to get everything where you want it to be. But cut shapes, now if we go back here and we put that back in a fill mode, it's filling the wrong thing because the wrong things got closed whenever I did cut shapes. So if I'm gonna go back and undo and get me back to there. And what I meant to do was hold my cross or select my cross and then select that rectangle and subtract the Boolean tools. Boolean A subtract B. That creates closed shapes here. Now with that closed, I can say Control D, duplicate it, move it over here with my arrow keys, mirror it, hold my shift, select that, Alt Shift H for horizontal and weld it and put it back in fill mode. And there you have your second layer. And it's going to be, by doing it that way, even if you got off ever so slightly with the placement of a fraction of a millimeter on one side of the array, now it's going to be symmetrical because you're just duplicating and flipping that over. Even if it is off a wee bit, it's off a wee bit on both sides. You kept your symmetry. So that was layer 2 of that cross. Now, and in fact, I'm going to go back here. I forgot, because this is the reason I did only 180 of that array and left the other side of that cross, the toolpath, blank, so I could do this. In fact, I'm going to have to undo my weld. I'm going to duplicate this, say Control D, duplicate it, bring this one down here. Now I can select these and Alt Shift H and weld those back together. So that's one piece. I'm going to turn that toolpath back on so I can see her. In fact, while I've got it turned on, I'm going to go ahead and select it and say Control D, duplicate it, put it on a red cut path for right now, and turn that toolpath back off. So it's there. It's locked in place and it's there. Now I'm going to select this piece and I'm going to bring it over here to this side and put it right there, snap it where it needs to be. And if you put it back in fill mode, well, that other duplicate is there right now. In fact, let's go undo for giggles and put this one on another color layer. I'll start up here at the top and work down and put it in fill mode. And this is just so you can keep up with where you're at in your design process. If you need a crutch, and when you're doing these layers, sometimes if you're not paying attention and you don't keep a guide, you're like, wait a minute, you may end up either creating the same layer twice or missing a layer or get off by a vein or two. So keeping this as a progress is kind of helpful for me. Maybe it will be for you. Maybe it won't be for you. But now that's the second layer. I've got my red layer here for my third layer for the cross and there. So now what I need to do is I'm going to do this one kind of quick without a whole lot of explanation. I'm going to create that third layer. Put the red back in fill. So that comes there. So I'm going to need to come out to here. Oh, I'm in the wrong layer. Pencil tool. And now I'm having to rethink this. This is 2, so I need to come out 2. Is that one right? 1, 2, 3, 1. Nope, I missed. Let's see. Down to here. There we go. Oh. Nope. Oh, I missed it. Or I didn't go. Let's see. Yeah. All right. And now that I got that, I can put that one on another layer so it does not get confused. Move it over there, hold my shift button, select my red layer again, bring that up, go back to line mode. And then you're going to do this same thing over and over and over. And I'm not going to go through this whole process of doing this. But if I grab that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one, and group it, and then grab that group and weld it. And you look to make sure that everything overlapped and all the lines are gone. Like there. There it didn't quite overlap. I'm going to show you how to fix that. That one's gone, that one. So when I did that shape, it left these lacking on the overlap. So I undo that. And not having to go back and redo everything, I'm just going to grab this right here, go into node editing, ungroup it all so it's far enough. There you go. And now I'll grab these nodes, and I can actually grab this one was a screw up. Just use the letter D to delete it. Grab those two right there, and just a micro movement overlapping that line. And now that that's overlapping, group those back together, select those, and now weld it. And that got rid of that. All those are now lined up. And now do the same thing again. Grab a square, or a rectangle, I should say. Square, A, subtract. I subtract the wrong side, stupid. A, subtract B. And I didn't move it up. See, I'm full of mistakes. Got to move that up to get to the top. There we go. A, subtract B. Control D, duplicate it, move it over, flip it. Control D, duplicate it again. Hold my shift button and select that yellow square and center that up there. That'll put that in place. Now select this and Alt Shift H and weld it together. Did it weld together? No. Weld together. There we go. Put that one on yet another layer and move it over. And there's the next layer. And you keep doing that and stepping it out equal distances so that you get the distance that you're looking for until you get all the way down. In fact, let's do this. I'm going to delete this, and we're going to go. I don't have it on the website yet because I've been so flustered and behind schedule all day today. If I open the 8-layer, no, this is how the 8-layer cross will open. Oh, and I forgot, I didn't show you the secret that I did on how to do that with the, because those last several layers, and you'll see it on here, are so broad and so thick, you can cut that rectangle in there and then cut that and have your hanger built into it, and it'll sit flush on the wall. The hanger won't be kicking off the wall. Come back over here. But this will be the design that I have on the website. I'll have it on there shortly after we close this live stream up. But if you want to see how this is looking whenever you're designing it, what you're going to need to do is have each one of them on its own layer and in fill mode. So let's put it in fill mode. And then I'm going to select this one. In fact, I'm just going to start over here. See, you'll start over here and put that on double alt. Select that one and put it on 1. Select that one and put it on 2. And it's already there, 3. And you can do this as you're doing your design. And then after you've completed the design, then you select the entire thing and put it on all the cut layer, because all these are cuts. And lastly, that would be 7. And I ain't sure why that cut out up there. So let's go back. Let's undo that. In fact, let's put that on align mode for a second. Oops. I've got that toolpath in there so that you can know where, if this is the back piece. So when you download, if you download this design, this back piece has got this toolpath in here so that you can put your logo right there and tell it to go to the center of that square, and your logo would be centered up on the back across. That's the only reason that toolpath is still there. All right, but I want to turn this, let's see, ungroup that. Turn off the blue layer for a second, and there we go. Now let's group that all back. That is grouped. Well, I can't see it, so got to turn it back on to group it. Turn that off. And now put that in there. I still don't know why it's doing that to me. But right now, that's, in fact, you know, for demonstration purposes for this right now only, I'm going to get rid of that. There we go. Group those. Those are grouped. All right. Now, the way the layering works in LightBurn, to me, it's counterintuitive, because your priority, when you put your layers in priority, you know you should do your cut last. So that whatever you're using for your cut layer, the majority of us use the red layer as the cut layer. It's the very bottom layer in your list of cuts and layers. It's the last layer. Well, when you want to look at a layered design, you have to think of it backwards. It's an inverted stack of pancakes. So if you want, well, in fact, I'm just going to grab all of these, and they're all grouped individually. So I should be able to just tell them to center up and then go to the center of the screen. We'll put it in the center of that. All right. Right now, in this particular order, you see that your lowest priority, the last thing is on the top. So you have to invert your priority list to see all of the layers. So if I select that layer and move it all the way to the top, then grab the next layer and move it next to the top. I'm just inverting that's too far. grab this one and move it up. And then put that in fill. That fill. There we go. So by changing your priority list, and I left that one should be there. There we go. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Counting 0, so that's 8 layers. And now you can see each of those layers. Now, when I did this one, and this is what you see represented there is this cross. And that's going to be on the website. But I'm going to include 2 8-layer crosses in the file. It's going to have this file in there. And this was the first version of the cross that I did. And depending on how OCD you are, you may notice that what is the second layer or the first layer of the starburst, it's actually wider than each of the steps going down because I didn't do the proper offset in the beginning where I did half of the first layer in each direction and then the same amounts. So I've got another version that will be included in it, and that's the only difference. The only difference between them is this one, this blue layer you can see is twice the thickness of this red right here. So the other version, the blue layer will only be as thick as one of the steps. Let's see here. Import. Well, it'll all be in there, and you'll see the difference. So whenever I do get around to getting this file online, there'll be 2 versions of the cross. This one, and I showed this one to a lot of folks, and they actually liked this one and didn't care for having it be exactly the same symmetry all the way down. So that's why I didn't just scrap it, because there's no right or wrong way when it comes to art, right? All right, so now let's jump back up here and look at any questions that I've missed since my last marking of my spot. Ding, 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 ding. All right, there's my spot. So let's see here. Question marks, comments. Hey, stupids. We got that. All right, Chris. Being symmetrical, you only need to watch one corner where adjoining rays pass through inner corner and the outer corner. I have to think about your question or comment. Being symmetrical, you only need to watch one corner where adjoining rays pass through inner corner and outer corner. I don't quite, my brain is not wrapping around what you're asking or saying. Don't know if it's a question or a comment. The question marks make me think it's a question, but I think it's a comment. And it may be something that you're seeing that I'm just not seeing. And that's why I say there's always another way to do it. In optimization settings, you can select top and bottom or bottom. Oh, okay. Well, I've been using LightBurn for over 2 years now, knowing that my lowest or my excuse me, I would hate to retrain my brain right now and just so I can have that visual. I just know that because if I did that just for the visual representation, I would need to make sure that I put my cut layer at the first instead at the bottom, and I ended up screwing that up. So yeah. Yeah, and Chris says, "Yep, that was a comment." Yeah, and I'm not fully comprehending what you're saying. It's just not registering with me right now. But doing pieces like this is not difficult to do. But if we jump over here, and I'll show you the potential problems of, because doing offsets to create layers is generally the easiest way and the way most people do stuff. But to create these starburst, it created another headache that you can address and you can fix. But it was okay if I got to do that on all these, then it's almost just as easy to do it the other way than it is to. So if I come back over here, and I should still have that toolpath locked in place. If I grab all this and move that out of the way, and then do I have no? That toolpath is gone. What happened? I thought I had that on the red toolpath. All right, we'll back up. Undo, undo, undo. I'll just keep undoing until I find that red toolpath. I'm not going to draw another one. Actually, you know what? Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just keep going. That's right. I deleted it like a dummy. I thought I was through with it, but we'll just undo till we get back there. At least I thought we would. Oh, no. I opened up. I scrapped that. This was the file I imported. It's gone. So, but I'll just simply do a hit it too many times. Do a recreation of that somewhat. So if I've got a square here, come on, baby. Don't want all of them. I just want the top one. Oh, no, stupid. Wrong key. Select all those. Alt Shift V, Control D, duplicate them, rotate them, select that one, delete it, and then weld all these together. Put it in align mode. All right, if I come here to the center and I started a brief array, and we're going to do this one, only do oh no, come on, stupid. There we go. Not only was the I mentioned to you about doing the offset on the first one. If you did an offset on the first one, it's going to be a rectangle offset. It wouldn't have the taper to it. But if we did get past that one and we just started doing offsets of the, ungroup those, of the angular shaped ones, say Control D, duplicate that, and I'm going to rotate it, put my anchor point here and rotate it 10 degrees. And then I'm going to duplicate that one, flip it, and bring it down here. And I'm trying to do a quick mess with this. So I've actually got one solid piece and show you the problems with, at least what I consider to be problems with doing offsets and doing this. Nodes. Actually, we'll do trim and trim. And now do that back. So if I had a perfect piece like that, and that was the first ray, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna make sure it's a closed shape and close it. Now I want to do, and it didn't close. Come on, stupid. Edit. It's closed. All right, turn that back on. If I was going to try and use the offset tool to create my other rays going out here, if I select that and go to offset, Well, it gives me, you can see it gives me that offset I want here, but it also sticks it out here, which is not a big deal. But you see, you also, it jumped in here. And if you want, initially, it's not going to be too much of a problem. But you really wanted this to come to the same point, the same origin down here. So it's not going to give you as precise of an array or that starburst effect as you continue to create more and more arrays. Say, okay, do an offset or an array of offset of that one. Let's see, cancel. Yeah, offset of that one. Okay, an offset of that one. Okay. So you would get the same step down here and here, but see how wide it gets here? And if you look there, they all come to the same central point instead of getting the fan getting wider and wider. It's not to say one way's right, one way's wrong. I just wanted everything to come from one central point, and that's why I did not do the offsets to create those starbursts. Let's see. This one is can be a little bit of a head scratcher, and we're going to be wrapping it up here real quick. But yeah, there's a lot of information here, and just watch it. And these are just repetitive motions. It's just connect them and create only half of it. Create half of it, and then so do your Boolean tools, subtract half, and then mirror it, flip it. Now you got a perfect symmetry, and and the best thing to do it is do it with no distractions, nobody talking at you. You keep up with where you're at, and you'll get there. It's not very difficult. It is time consuming. And the first one you do will take you a lot longer than the second one you do. And the third one will be even faster. It will get more, it'll become easier and old hat. You do it without thinking. But if you don't want to go through the troubles of doing the design, I will have both of those crosses in one file on hobowithwood.com within minutes of this stream ending. Probably within 20 or 30 minutes, I'll have it online. If you don't want to go to the trouble of trying to do it yourself. As always, Gold Patrons will have both those files for free. It'll be one file with the two designs in one file. But here, back over to the offsets. Here, if you were trying to weld these together, if you did an offset of this cross and say, okay, and those were grouped together, and you wanted to put this, and right now we'll just put a circle in here. We're not going to worry about a cross. We'll just come in here and draw a big circle. So I'm trying to replicate this as much as possible as the cross I just did. I didn't want to do another circle. Delete that. Grab both those, group it. Those are grouped. Yep. And we'll put these on the same path and hold shift, select those groups, group those. So a minute ago, I was able to take that like this one. This is a perfect piece because it was exactly where I wanted it to be. In fact, I just need to draw, actually, let's ungroup. I need to make, this is my OCD kicking in. I should have done this first. Get her down here to the right size. And we'll do an offset outward of that one and say, okay. Group. So now if I was to take this one and this one, it's actually going to be a little bit of a problem because I went in here. If I hit my weld button, that's going to be inside there. That's no bueno. So that's another thing you want to make sure. That's why I started my my starburst and my arrays inside. Let's see, come here, node editing. That point needs to be inside there. So when you weld them together, you don't get a piece sticking in the middle of your cross or whatever you have in your center section. So now if I say that plus that and weld it together, that gives me the right result here and here. But when you're working with these offsets, because the offset kept going out, see how it's pushed out past your center, you'd have to modify this, and also it sticks it out here. So it's more, for me, it was more work with trying to do the offsets and then having to make the offsets work than it was just to simply create the array of the lines and then draw the starburst exactly as I want them, where they're all coming to one focal point. They all have the same equal spacing across there. And that's dealing with me wanting to have symmetry and to get the look that I'm after for my piece of artwork. And it is what it is. It's just a piece of artwork, and it's subject to every artist conceptualism. They're what they appreciate. My way's not wrong. Your way's not wrong. One way's not right. One way's not perfect. It's just what appeals to you. Questions and comments. That was to make it easier for me to find the number in the first circular array you did. Okay. And see here, Carl says, I like the top layer wider. Yeah. And it is. And it's not that I didn't do that on purpose with that top layer being a little bit wider. In fact, let's get a little better focus on I don't have autofocus on there. So the top layer is a little bit wider than the rays going down. And it doesn't look bad. It's just not, and the average person that was looking at your artwork and your design work, they may never have noticed that one was wider than the others, but it jumped out at me once I put it together. I was like, oh man. So I redesigned another one. All right, guys, thank you for hanging out with us. We're at an hour 30. Is there any questions or comments? And I hate if you're having to catch this on the replay because I told you today was at 9:00 p.m. instead of 3:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My apologies. I'm a screwball sometimes, more often than not. Any questions or comments from the peanut gallery before we jump off of here? I appreciate everybody hanging out. And like I said, I will get this online with both versions of this in one file. I'll just make a note that this is the one to be the one pictured in the file description, and make a note that there's a second version of it in there. And the second version, I did the hanger a little bit differently. Let's see here. I might have just screwed up something. Let's see. Okay. I'll show you on the second version. I did the hanger a little different. See, file, import, and I know you can't see my screen yet. I think it was a 7-layer. I did so many of these now, I can't even remember. Yeah, this one's actually a 7-layer, not an 8-layer. So come back over here. This is the 7-layer. Get rid of this. And this one is the one that has the symmetry throughout. But this one, I just did a circle, and then a slight little teardrop that was on the very back layer. And you got a toolpath, your logo here. And that right there is another way, because it's ideally you want this, your anchor point, your hanging point, to be right in the very center there, so it's hanging balanced. So that should work as a hanger as well. And that's just cutouts on the last 3 layers and allows you to mount it or hang it flush against the wall with no extra hardware needed, nothing else to purchase. And you could, if you wanted to mount these to a base, you could just simply add a tab to the bottom of each one of those crosses and make sure you get that tab perfectly centered on all of them, welded into place. So you have a tab that protrudes out the bottom that you could then put into a base and mount it. So it could be something you put on the shelf and be freestanding. But for something this size, I felt it better as a wall hanger and not as a stand. And again, thank you. It's congratulating on 10,000. Thank you. I appreciate all you guys hanging out. I hope that it was informative. I hope you learned a little something. Chris, teardrop works if it's symmetrical. Yep. If not, the sawtooth is better. And with this design, that's the whole point of this whole thing is I'm trying to do work in perfect symmetry. So this one with the teardrop, it should work perfect because it is a symmetrical piece. If they deviate from the design and change it and add anything to it, a dove or anything that would, cause it to be off balance, then yes, the teardrop would not work. All right. I'm going to end this. Thank you guys very much for hanging out. I'm going to spend the next 15, 20 minutes trying to get this thing up on hobowithwood.com. So if you are a patron, in fact, let's change that. I've been running the Rolly banner the whole time. Yeah, there it is. There's the scroll for the Patreon. If you're a patron, gold patrons know this already. They get all of my digital files for free. It's $20 a month, and you have all of the access to all of the files. Right now is a crazy time for you. Turn that off. Turn that back to here. Now's an optimum time to jump over to Patreon and become a gold level patron. If it's within your budget, if you're buying files, if you're going on to Etsy and buying files from God knows who, maybe they're tested, maybe they're not, maybe they work with LightBurn, maybe they don't, and some of them are cheap. You can buy files $1, $2, whatever. My files are not cheap. I put a lot of work into my stuff. I put a lot of time into testing them. I build everything before I put the file on the website for sale. I try to have a physical representation of every file that's for sale. You know that I've already built it. I don't want to put it out there for sale without having done it and tested it myself. So I know if there's a problem or any kinks in it, I've already identified them and or repaired them. If you find a problem with a file that is a true problem with a file, that needs to be corrected, I will refund your purchase price 100%. If you have a problem with a file that you're just not wrapping your mind around on how to get it to work, I'm happy to help and assist you, even to the point of doing this, a one-on-one live stream with me and you talking and showing you what the roadblocks were. If I can't do it in a simple email, we'll spend the time talking about how to do this. But gold patrons, $20 a month, 100% free on all the digital files, 80% discount on a silver, and 60% discount on gold. And I think it was 3, 8, and 20, or 3, 9, and 20. I don't even remember what the tier levels are. But I've got well over $600 worth of files on hobowithwood.com right now. And you get them all for free at $20 a month. I ask that you don't be a jerk like John, and I won't call his first name out because I ain't going to be that much of a. John signed up, got $20 worth a month, signed up for 1 month, and then downloaded over $500 worth of files, canceled his membership, and stole all that for $20. That's what he did. He stole them. So after he did that, I've asked gold members to, obviously don't do that. Refrain your downloads to, $40 a month or $40 at a time in your downloads. If I come out with a new style that you like, that, and you've already downloaded it, you know, $40 or a little more this month, but you're like, hey man, that cross just come out and I really want it. Man, I'm not going to, you know, buck you over downloading another file. I just ask you to be fair and honest, because this is how I'm paying my bills. Patreon is what supports me. YouTube, this right here, this free instruction that I'm giving you to teach you how to do this step by step yourself without having to depend on me or downloading it. YouTube doesn't pay my power bill. Now, I've hit 10,000 subscribers and it's still not enough to amount to anything. So thank you to my patrons, and thank you for your support. And especially during this time that I'm not been as active as I like to be, I really appreciate your continued support. So Patreon is the better deal. It's a really good investment if you're a serious creator and you want to create projects that you can turn around and sell. I'm selling this right here for $60, and I've got 8 layers of $2 birch material, so that's $16, and wood, plus the time, plus the a half can of, because I've put on several coats of the triple thick glaze. You know, I figure I've got probably close to you know, just under $30 or $32 in materials in making this, and plus my time, you know, so $60 is actually kind of a low price as far as I'm concerned, but I'm selling them for $60 a piece. This one's sold. So you know, even if you just go on and buy the files, and I don't care if, in fact, like I said, this one has a place for you to put your brand on it. I don't care if you buy my file, put your logo on there and put them in all your craft shows and sell them. I don't care. I don't want to see the files that I've created and I'm trying to sell for, you know, $3 and $4 a piece on your website for 99 cents a piece. I don't want to see them being resold. And I don't want people signing up for $20, downloading $600 of files and dropping me, you know? So, let's see here. Am I looking for any last ones? Yep. And Chicago Bob is one of my big cheerleaders, and I appreciate your support more than I can ever express. Yeah, don't be a John. Don't be a John. Stacy says, I only download what I'm going to use, and don't be a John. Yep. So thank you again, guys. I'm going to jump off now, wrap this up. Thank you for being here. This time of day is always a small viewership, but there's lots of people watching in the replays, and I thank you all for that. And this is one that you'll want to back up, watch, back up, watch, back up, watch, back. It's not difficult to do. It's very, very easy to do. Or if you don't want to go to the trouble, give me 30 minutes. It'll be on the website. And then for all the patrons, gold ones especially, 30 minutes or so, you'll download these for free. So again, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope it's not too hot, too cold, or too rainy, or too wet where you're at. And you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe. And I appreciate it. Like, share, and subscribe. That's what you see. Y'all have a good weekend. And I'm ending the stream now. And maybe it will end. Maybe it won't.